for this assignment, you're going to learn how to layer different images to make it look like one object is inside of or in front or behind another. So you're going to start with a plain kitchen, and you're going to be adding different images to the kitchen where you're going to learn how to build a bowl of fruit. You're going to put a photo behind the window, and then you're going to add at least one other object to the kitchen, either on the ground or on the cupboards. So to begin with, you're going to go to Schoology and open up the Photoshop folder. In the kitchen folder, you're going to download the fruit and the bowl. So click on fruit. Then you want to download this, so click the download arrow, and you want to select to open in Photoshop. So it's automatically going to open. Then go back to Schoology. Go backwards in the kitchen and do the same thing with the bowl. So you're going to download that, and then it will open up in Photoshop. Then you have to split your screens to see them side by side. Put your mouse on top of the title bar, click down, drag, click down, drag. Now you can see these together side by side. Okay, so the directions say to choose a group of fruit to put in your bowl. So you're going to choose tool 3, click and hold, choose Lasso. Remember, anytime you see checkers, it means there is no background. So you don't have to be precise with your selection, but you just want to circle the entire item. Then you're going to click on tool 1, the move tool, and you're going to click and drag and move that to the bowl. So now you're done with that fruit file, unless you want to add more than one piece of fruit. Okay, so now I want to enlarge this to fill the bowl. So I'm going to click Control T, and I'm going to stretch that so that a part of the object is covering the front of the bowl. And we also want it to look like it's going to be inside of the bowl. So you also need to see your layer window. Tool number 17 is your layer. So you can see that the bowl is its own layer and layer 1 is fruit. So I'm going to put my mouse over layer 1 and I'm going to double click and title that fruit so that I know what is on that image. If you put your finger right over the top, you can double click. Okay. So now the directions say click on the bowl layer, that should be light gray, and now I'm going to be photoshopping it to look like the fruit is inside. So I'm going to choose my lasso tool, tool 3. I want to click and drag, and I want to circle the whole bottom of that fruit item. Then I want to go slightly higher than the front edge of the bowl, and I finish where I start and I let go. So now I just made a selection. I want to copy that portion of the bowl and cover up the fruit. So, shortcut command to copy is Control C. Double check that you are on the bowl layer. It's light gray. I'm going to click Control C. Now I'm going to click Control V, like Victor. The V is right next to the letter C. Now in your layer window, you can see that that actually worked because now you have a new layer. That's layer 1. I want to click layer 1 and drag that above the fruit till I see a light blue bar. I let go, and now layer 1 is on top. In Photoshop, whatever is at the top of the stack, that is your foreground or what's in front. So now it has covered up the fruit inside. So I want to clean up that edge. I might zoom in a little bit, Control+. Now I'm going to go switch to my eraser tool. Your eraser tool is tool number 8. Now I can click and drag to erase a portion of that bowl that's covering up too much of my fruit. But I want to go slow and be careful because I don't want to erase too low because then I take away the bowl. Remember, Control Z is undo. And if I stay right above the top edge, now it's going to look like that fruit is actually sitting inside of my bowl. So I'm going to zoom out. So a common mistake that students make is they are not on the correct layer when they do their copy and paste. So if you're on your fruit layer and you use your lasso and you draw the top of the bowl and then you do copy paste, well, now it's just going to copy another piece of fruit. And you can see that right here, the images. That happened because I was not on the correct layer. So I'm on the bowl layer, Control C to copy, Control V to paste, move layer 1 above the fruit, get your eraser tool, tool 8, and start erasing away this extra portion. Okay, so when I am done, I want to save this so I don't have to redo that step. So I'm going to go File, Save As, make sure I am in my G drive, make sure I'm in my art folder, and then maybe title that bowl of fruit. And then click Save. Okay, now on your printed directions, you are on step number 10. When you're finished photoshopping this is made up of 3 layers. We want to squish that down into 1 layer. So right now my layer 1 is active because it's light gray. I want to select all of these layers. So I'm going to hold Shift, and now I'm going to click on the bottom layer. Now all the layers are selected. I'm going to right click, Merge Layers. Now it is all one piece that's made up of my bowl of fruit. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is going back to Schoology, and I'm going to open up the kitchen file, and then I'm going to download that. So it should open in Schoology, or sorry, it should open in Photoshop. Okay, split your screen so you can see them side by side. So I want to place that bowl of fruit in my kitchen. So I'm going to get my Move tool, tool number 1, and when I click and drag, the whole thing should come because that was all one layer. So now I'm going to click and drag and move it to the kitchen. I see a plus sign, I let go. Now I can place this wherever I want it to be in my kitchen. If you want to resize, click Control T. Now you can pull the corner. Maybe you want it smaller if it's going to be on a counter. Then push Enter when you finish. Okay, now layer 1 is my bowl of fruit. So I'm going to title that. So I'm going to put my mouse directly over layer 1. I'm going to double click. Title it Bowl of Fruit. Okay, so now I have 2 layers. I have my kitchen and my bowl of fruit. The next thing that you need to do is click on the kitchen layer. Now you're going to use a new tool called the Magic Wand tool. And I can close out this bowl. You can save it if you want to. Tool 4 is the Magic Wand tool. I'm going to click and hold and choose the bottom option. Now I'm going to click on the white window, and the Magic Wand is going to see that this whole area is white, and it's going to select it all at one time. So now I'm going to click Backspace to delete. Then I'm going to click on the other side of the window, Backspace to delete. Once I've deleted that, click Control D to deselect. So remember in Photoshop, whenever you see checkers, it means it's invisible. There is nothing there. So now I always want to save after each step. So Control S to save. Make sure that you're saving it in your G drive, in your art folder. So now I'm going to go to Google, and I'm going to do an image search for whatever I want to see through that window. So maybe I see a backyard pool, except I titled it park. Okay, a backyard pool. Then you also want to consider this perspective, where you're kind of standing in the kitchen looking out the window. So if it's going to have a pool, the pool should probably look like it's off in the distance. So I want to consider that when I am looking for my photos. So I don't want a top view. That's not going to look very realistic. Okay, maybe this one will work. So I always want to try to get to the largest photo if I can, the largest version. And then I want to scroll until I find that picture. And if that doesn't work, you can always just do this with the thumbnail also. Okay, I'm going to right click, Save Image As. I'm going to make sure I'm in my art folder, and I'm going to title it something that I'm going to remember. And then I'm going to go back to Photoshop, and now I'm going to go File, Open. Make sure you choose the second one down as Open. I titled it Pool. Split your screens, click and drag. Okay, now I want to move this pool to that kitchen. So I don't have to make a selection because I want the whole picture to come. I'm just going to click and drag until I see a plus sign. I let go, and now that image just transferred over. So I want to make sure this picture is bigger than my window. So I'm going to click Control T, and I'm going to pull the corner. And then when I'm done, I push Enter. Now, I want it to look like the picture is behind the window. So I have to rearrange my layers. So now, layer 1 for me is the window. So I'm going to title that Window. I'm going to click the window and drag it under the kitchen layer till I see a blue bar. I let go, and now that picture did go behind that window. So now it looks a little more realistic. Once I finish, I'm going to click Control S to save. Now the directions say you need to add at least one other item to your kitchen. If you're an early finisher, I want you to add as many items as you can to your kitchen. So I would go back to the internet and think about what objects you could put on your kitchen counter. Maybe you want a vase of flowers. So think about how difficult it's going to be to do the photoshopping. If you find a picture with a solid color background that's not the same color as the object, that will go faster in Photoshop. So I'm going to right click, Save Image As. I'm going to go to my art class, title it something you're going to remember. In Photoshop, you're going to open, split your screen. Okay, so I need to delete the background behind this. I always have to make sure I unlock my layer. If your background is a totally different color than the object, you could use your Magic Wand tool. And when you do your Magic Wand tool and click the background, it's going to select everything except the object, and then you can do backspace to delete. Then I want to get rid of my dots. Control D. Now I can use my Move tool, click and drag, I let go, and I move it to my kitchen. Now, I know I moved it to the kitchen. I saw the plus sign, but I can't see it in my window, and that's because of the order. I need to change the order. Whatever is at the top is in front. So I have to click layer 1 and drag it above the kitchen, and now that vase appears. But that vase is way too big, so I'm going to do Control T, and I'm going to shrink that down and make that a size that looks a little more realistic, and then I push Enter. Okay, another thing you could do is play around with the color of your kitchen. If you don't want your wall to be red, you can change that. You can click on the kitchen layer. You can use your Magic Wand tool and select the red wall. I'm going to click the red wall. I'm going to hold Shift to add, and I'm going to add that piece. Then I'm going to go click on the red wall here. And now I can change that color by trying Control U and moving this bar. So maybe I want a purple kitchen. If that doesn't work, I can click Control B, and Control B is going to let me mix colors to make my own version. Control D to deselect. So if you want to change all the kitchen, then you don't select anything. You're on the kitchen layer. Now you can do Control U, and you can move this bar and watch what happens to the coloration of that image. If you don't want any color, you can slide the saturation and make it all grayscale if you want. So you're welcome to play around with those options. If your image is more complicated, where it doesn't have a solid background or the background is the same color as the object. So for example, maybe I add in a Boston Terrier. Okay, maybe I want this Boston Terrier to be in my kitchen. Alright, maybe I want this little guy. So I'm going to save image as. I'm in my art class. I had to win at Boston, so I know what it is to find it. And now I'm going to open, look for Boston. Okay, if you tried to right-click Save Image As, and you opened it in Photoshop and, well, it would not open in Photoshop. Here is a shortcut to get around that problem. You can click on your Start menu. Then there should be an icon here that says Snipping Tool. When you choose that tool, you're going to click New, and now you're going to get a crossbar for you to click and drag and highlight the portion of the picture you want. When you let go, now you're going to right-click, Save As, make sure you're in your art class folder, title it something you're going to remember, and now when you go over to Photoshop, now you can open up that file that you just saved. Then split your screens. Okay, so now, if you cannot use your magic wand tool, so I clicked and hold tool 4, I chose magic wand for my background. This isn't going to work as well because it's not a solid color. So another option is that you can use your magnetic lasso tool like what we learned how to do for the bulldog. Make sure your layer is unlocked. Choose magnetic lasso, and now I'm going to click, 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 click all the way around to set anchor points. The more you click, the more anchor points you set, the more precise your selection is going to be. Then, when you get back to where you started, double click, and it should turn to a selection. So I have to clean this up a little bit. I'm missing this part that I need to remove, so I'm going to hold Alt to remove that, hold Alt to remove that. Then I also want to get rid of this little spot here. Okay, I'm cutting off his eye, so I need to hold Shift and add that part. All right, so now I need to select inverse because I need my background selected. Right click, select inverse. Now backspace to delete. I'm going to deselect, Control D. Now I can use my move tool and move that to my kitchen. I can do Control T to make it whatever size it needs to be. Push Enter to finish the transformation. So you need at least one additional item. More is better to fill up the kitchen. Think about what you could put on the fridge, what you could put on the floor, the counters. Have fun. When you finish, you're going to save yourself a copy. Make sure you know what you're titling it as, because then you're going to go back to Schoology and you're going to click on the Turn In file. Here you can see the grading rubric of what I'm looking for. Click Submit. Make sure you choose the correct file to turn into me if you have that assignment